Welcome to Safe and Sound, sponsored by White Mountain Fire and Life Safety. Today on the show, we have Katelyn Fawcett with Navajo County Detective. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So how long have you been with Navajo County, and what do you do for them?
I've been with Navajo County for 3 years now, and I've recently been promoted to detective as of November of 2016. So I've been fit in that role as a detective, and some of the casework that I have, we deal with homicides, fraudulent schemes, basically the bigger cases that patrol may not have the time to do follow-up on or whatever. That's where we step in and kind of take over those bigger cases. So that's kind of what I've been doing since I've been promoted in November. So.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
How do you like it? It's pretty neat.
I'm liking it. It's a lot different from patrol, but it's kind of the things that I wanted to get into and what I wanted to do with my career. So I'm happy where I'm at, and that's where I wanted to be. So it's going great.
Is there any challenges to it?
It's a lot of writing.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of people, there's a lot of paperwork that goes into it, but and some people have issues with that, but I don't mind it as much, and so far no issues, but learning as I'm going for sure, but it's been fun so far. So.
Yeah, it's a start to a pretty great career if you really like what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So speaking of some of the stuff that you oversee after, because they are busy, patrol is very busy, so
Absolutely.
I understand that the bigger cases that are more time consuming come to you, but some of those cases consist of scams and fraudulent schemes, I guess, is what.
Right. So we, as a detective in my position, we sometimes deal with the bigger cases. I know, I can't give too much details, but I know that we have one detective that's working on one with basically an exploitation of, if I'm saying that word correctly, of an elderly person who they've it's not really a family member, but kind of a friend, I guess, that's kind of stepped in and tried to take over their finances and things like that. So we deal with those bigger, the ones that take like search warrants and subpoenas and all that work. But patrol does take scams such as, these ones that people are calling in for their information, whether it be their social security, their credit card numbers, things like that. They handle that on patrol. Because a lot of times, unfortunately, we can't track where these people are calling from, where they're at, and so it's difficult for us with the resources that we have to be able to track these people down. But there still are some things that we can handle either on patrol level or detective. So usually if it's more local and it's, will take more time to develop, then that's where detectives will step in, but often patrol will get that initial call and handle it on a patrol level as well. So.
And they can refer things on to you guys
Absolutely.
Easily to that. So you brought up that scam thing. Is that something that the person is being helpful in the finances or not helpful in the finances? Like, is it people taking advantage of people?
Absolutely, and that's where it comes down to is, we have family members calling in being like, this person would not spend this type of money on these types of things, and we don't know who this person is that's coming into our family and taking advantage of, my grandpa or any family member of theirs, really. And so that's where we get those types of calls in, is that, they're taking advantage of that person's money and just exploiting them to do, things that's not normal to them or their family. And so that's when they kind of, we step in. But a lot of it too, which I think is more popular with the patrol side of things, people getting the calls over the phone. I know we have one right now that's actually pretty common, and I even dealt with it when I was on patrol, is people will get calls from individuals who claim to be from the IRS, and they'll say, hey, you owe thousands of dollars on taxes or whatever, and you better pay it or we're going to come and arrest you. And so people get nervous or freaked out that they're going to be arrested, and so they end up paying these people when in all reality they're not even from the IRS or anything. So that's actually become an issue as well. We also have a case, recent one also, where an individual's claiming to be from a local law enforcement agency and telling people you have a warrant out for your arrest. If you don't pay the fines, we're going to come and arrest you, when really they don't even work for our agency or anything like that. So we're getting calls from people that are saying, hey, does this person work for you? I mean, what's going on? So we've been dealing with that one too, and that seems to be a popular one, is people claiming to be from these government officials or agencies that are trying to get money out of people because they put that fear of them getting in trouble from it. So.
And this is more specific to local. I mean, if they're talking about your agency, this is somebody local doing this.
Right. And with that one, I don't know if we've kind of been working with FBI on that one. I know it's fairly new, so I don't know. Unfortunately, I'm not the detective working on that one. Mm-hmm. But with that one, it seems to be like it probably is local, but the numbers are coming back, from other areas. So we've been working with
research to find out how to. I mean, the crook is doing his research to find out. Oh, in this community, there's this place, and making it more familiar.
Exactly.
To the person, because that would freak me out a little bit more.
Yep.
I'd be like, no way, I do.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
And then people get so worked up about and have that fear in them that, oh my goodness, I'm going to be arrested or whatever, and so they just end up doing it without, following through and questioning, is this legitimate? Is this not? Because they put that fear in them that this is going to happen if you don't take care of it. So, but yeah, with that person, we are working with the FBI on that one of trying to get this person tracked down, because they are claiming to be either with the sheriff's office or the local police agencies and claiming to be someone that they're not. So,
yeah, because I did have the police department on here a few months back, and we kind of talked about scams, but we didn't talk. They were more broad and more internet coming through and people getting calls and stuff, but from other countries.
Right.
I mean, when they take the time to find out your community and things that are again familiar to you, that's a whole different kind of manipulation.
Absolutely, and I think that's as we develop and stuff like that, so do these crooks, and they figure out ways to get people to be more susceptible to giving them money or whatever, and to victimizing these people to try to make it more familiar to them. Yeah. And so with that one, what I would recommend to people is if you get a call from somebody that seems to be like from a local agency or whatever, and you're not sure if you're like, well, this can't be me, I've never done anything bad or anything in my life, why would I have a warrant out for my arrest? What I would recommend is get all their information. Half the time these people will hang up if you start asking questions. Oh, that's a good but I would definitely ask for their rank, whether they're an officer, detective, sergeant, what their position is with that agency, what agency it's for, and also their badge number. Get as much information as possible. That way when you can call into that agency's dispatch, you can verify, hey, does this person even work for you? Do they not? And then take it from there, and also report it to us that this is what's being said to them. So. Well,
and I honestly, I never, even through my little brat years when I might have had a warrant for speeding and not going to a speeding ticket,
right.
I never got a call from the police or the sheriff's office saying, by the way.
Exactly. That usually comes through the courts. The courts will notify you, and that's usually how they handle it. Is through the court system.
They do it through mail. I mean, I've never even gotten a phone call.
we would never call anybody to let them know, hey, you got a warrant out for your arrest, you need to take care of it, or
I mean, it'd be nice, right?
Right.
But it's like you have time.
Usually it's a knock on the door from us notifying you.
Yeah, or
and it gets handled differently, but yeah. But no, that's a notification that comes through the courts, and they usually mail that information. Same with the IRS. I know that one we get every year. People claiming, again, to be from the IRS and wanting people to pay taxes or they're going to get arrested. That information, hardly ever will the IRS ever call you about issues like that. Again, it's usually through the mail, and it's on official letterheads and things like that.
Have you ever tried to call the IRS? You
right.
can't get a hold of anybody.
Exactly. So they don't have the time to sit down and be calling all these people and requesting this information. So, but that is a very common one that we deal with, is the ones that with IRS. Because people think, well, they're not sure if they owe or not. They don't think they do, but these people are saying I do. So definitely I would recommend people to go to the IRS website and find out for themselves and get in touch with them that way. Like you said, I know it's difficult sometimes to get in touch with them, but they're not going to call you and ask you for that money, and
they're just going to tack it onto your bill.
Yeah,
and eventually
and scare you about, you're going to get arrested if you don't or whatever.
So with that, is there any other scams like that you're seeing more consistently besides IRS and then the local police department?
Those are the biggest ones that I see. We do have sometimes the ones that are pretending to be from credit card companies or your local banks, a lot of online stuff. And what we like to recommend with the online stuff, especially if we have a difficult time tracking who it is, say if it's out of state or out of this country even, there's not much we can do because it's not occurring in our jurisdiction. Yes, people are being victimized here, but we have, exactly, we have no way of tracking down who these people are, where they're at, anything like that. So what we recommend to people is a website that we like to call ic3.gov, and that's the letter I, letter C, and then 3.gov. And it's basically what the FBI has is a internet crime compliance network where you could basically file a report letting people know, hey, this is what's been reported to me over online or whatever, this is what I'm getting online as far as scams, and you can report it to the FBI and then they can analyze it and investigate it. But they do have that capability for people to go online and do it that way of reporting that incident, because sometimes we can't do with it. Obviously we will take an initial report just so it's documented on our end, but as far as the further step or the next step, that'd be through the ic3.gov that the FBI handles with. So.
Well, and then once you get victimized, you're in it for a long time. It's hard to get out of giving your information up to a stranger who's taking advantage of you. And then from there, I mean, where do you go? You have to go and try to shut down all your credit cards and change all your passwords.
Yes, that's a lot of work.
Become a new person.
Yep, it's a lot of work. And what I would recommend to people, if they're getting ones from their credit card companies, because it seems to be a popular one, I know even last year I got calls from my bank saying, oh, I need your bank or your debit card number and your social security. I'm like, they already have that on file. Why are they asking me for that information? So typically that's another red flag to be aware of, that they aren't going to ask you for that information. They're already going to have it. And so just be cautious of who you give your information to. And if anything is questionable, like I said, get their information, because half the time they'll just hang up on you. But get their information, then actually call the direct business line. I wouldn't call any number that they provide you with, because it's probably going to be a false number. I would call from a line that is either on the back of your business or debit card or your bank's information if you have any questions about if there's anything going on with my accounts or anything like that. So.
Oh, that's smart. So yeah, definitely they don't want to get involved into that web. So I like how you said start asking questions, because as soon as you ask questions, 50% of the time you'll get rid of those people.
Yes.
And then make sure that you do, if you are concerned about it. I mean, I just hang up on people all the time.
Right. And you absolutely have that chance too.
But if you want to further do it, look into it, you need to go to the site that they're talking about. Not the site, I should say the organization or the police department specifically to them, and talk to a person or drive down to there and face to face. If anybody needs your social security number, I think you'd make it more face to face than over the phone. So. Right. Well, and what was that email again, or that website?
ic3.gov. Again, it's the letter I, the letter C, and then the number 3.gov. G-O-V.
To report.
Yeah, any online scams or fraudulent things, they could deal with it on an online basis through the FBI, and they can be able to analyze it a little bit easier than we can, and they have more resources. So.
Well, thank you very much, Detective Fawcett. It was awesome to get some time to talk to you about this. It was good information.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Safe and Sound. Joining us now is Brandon Baxter with Northern Arizona Council of Governments. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So what do you do for NACOG?
Well, I work with the Area Agency on Aging through NACOG, and we are responsible for dispersing the Older American Act funds and running the programs and services that support our disabled and aging population here, not only in Northern Arizona, but throughout the nation.
And what age group is that? What does it usually start?
Well, and we service people 18 and up. Now, for the aging services, typically we're looking at 55 or 60 as being the age requirement for many of the programs. But the educational opportunities that we offer and the support groups that we offer don't have an age limit at all for you to gain education and insight as to what's out there in the world of services and supports for the disabled and aging populations.
So you're a resource, a vast resource.
Absolutely. We're actually considered the ADRC, or the Aging and Disability Resource Center for Northern Arizona.
Oh, wow. Okay. One place to go and get it all.
One-stop shop.
So previously on the show, we had Detective Fawcett, and we were talking about some of the scams, and we wanted to have you on here to talk about possibly scams with the elderly and into some of the abuse that we need to keep.
And unfortunately, it is a growing issue in our culture. We see scams, and oftentimes when people begin to age, we find that their support network, their family, will move away, will go out of town, out of state, out of the community at large, and people will identify these lonely or isolated seniors as targets. And so you will see an increase in scams and fraud and exploitation of our disabled and aging populations.
Well, and another thing is now we're giving these people the internet, or giving them tools like that, and not giving them really much instructions.
Sure, and we're talking about a large demographic of individuals that are very trusting and very loving and very caring individuals who really honestly are coming into these situations from a heart of helping. They're really looking at helping, and that's how they get drawn into many of these exploitation, frauds, and schemes, is through trying to help. I remember what Detective Fawcett was saying with some of the scams that are out there, with people calling and saying you have an outstanding warrant, or maybe people pretending to be the IRS or another governmental entity or organization trying to gain money from you. They'll also try to utilize your family ties and call and say that one of your grandchildren maybe is in jail and needs to be bailed out, and that if you send this amount of money, or if you get this much money in gift cards and send it to us, they'll be able to be released. But don't call the parents, because she doesn't want her parents to know that she's been in trouble. So they'll try to pull on those heartstrings as well to try to get you to give them money.
That's pretty evil.
It is incredibly evil.
Well, especially, you know, as grandparents, you don't get to see your grandchildren a lot in some cases, or your children a lot. Like you said, they move away, and all you want to do is be a part of their life and help them.
And they'll use that information to try to get to your checkbook.
And I guess a way that people are more finding out the information is through social media.
And that's a great part. So it's a double-edged sword, right? The internet can be utilized as a tool to exploit people, but at the same point in time, the internet can be utilized as a tool to educate people and let them know that these things are happening out there and that we should be aware of it. Television shows such as this are incredible about increasing the public's awareness about these frauds and schemes, because if you are at least aware that this is a possibility, that this could occur to you, you're going to be a little more discerning when you get that phone call. You're going to stop for a second and think, wait, is this what I heard about either on the internet or from my neighbors or on the television or radio? And if we can get people to stop and slow that process down and think that there's a possibility this could be a scheme or fraud, now they can begin to ask those questions. Now they can begin to inquire a little bit more. And like you identified earlier, typically the fraudsters or the scheme artists will hang up when you start to ask those deeper level questions. Well, you know, I'm really busy right now, but give me your name and phone number and the name of your organization again, and I'll give you a call back after I'm done with this appointment. Click, and the line goes dead. Well, I'm pretty certain it wasn't really the IRS at that point in time.
Yeah, which saves you a lot of money and frustration in the future. Now, do you offer any of this information to the elderly, or?
So what we say is, if you have a question about aging or disability-related services, even if it's just an inquiry, is this a legitimate thing that somebody's calling me about? We always tell people to call our toll-free information and referral number. It's 1-877-521-3500, and you can call that phone number with questions. If you have a question about something that's taking place, somebody that's called you, an email that you got, start there. Call us there, and we can begin to unravel it with you as far as putting you in contact with our ombudsman program, maybe legal aid. Maybe we can give you a referral to the legal counsel who can follow up on this, because we don't want to automatically assume it's a fraud or scheme, but we do want to check it out to make sure that it's a legitimate issue that these individuals are calling or contacting you over. So we will help do some legwork for you just to make sure that it's not something that they're really trying to get into your pocket. If you're utilizing our services and some of our other programs and supports, chances are you have an assigned case manager that is working with you to make sure that all of your supports and services are getting into your home and being utilized effectively. Well, this is a perfect opportunity to contact your own case manager and let them know about who's contacting you, who's telling you what they need, and now you have a case manager who's working on your behalf to make sure you don't get trapped into one of these situations, and maybe can provide you a little bit of feedback and be a sounding board for you. Hey, this sounded a little funny to me. What does this sound like to you? And now you and your case manager can really talk it out and try to get to the root of it. Is it legitimate? Is it a fraud?
No, that's good, because it gives them somebody to help them through it and hold their hand through it in a good way, instead of those bad people who want to hold their hand in a bad way. And that's important, because it will alleviate some of the calls to the police office, the sheriff's office, because they are very busy people.
And they are.
And when the police do need to get involved, I'm sure that the case manager will say, okay, now we have to involve the police. This is how we go.
Absolutely. And that's what we do. If we find that it's a legitimate issue, either through our case management team, our information and referral team, our legal advocacy, that or our ombudsman program, if they identify exploitation, abuse, frauds taking place, they will investigate it. And once they have enough information to determine that this is something we need to pursue further, we will involve local law enforcement, we will involve the Attorney General's office, and we will go after these individuals to make sure that they are not out there preying on our vulnerable members of our community.
And which is who gets it the majority of the time. I know that my husband's mom got it pretty bad, and she's 72, but she's a bright woman. But she had her computer locked up, and they said, you have to send me money because we'll unlock your computer. Something happened. She sent money. It never happened. Sent money again, and finally she tells us, and my husband's like, Mom, you know, what the heck were you doing? And so we had to take her through and basically change so much information to protect her. And now, I mean, once it happens once, it never happens again, at least not for her. She doesn't trust anybody, you know.
Well, and it's unfortunate that it took that experience for her to then begin to question whether or not that this individual was trying to defraud her. And we hear that story a lot, that, oh boy, my loved one really got burnt bad and now she doesn't trust anybody. Well, that's heartbreaking in a way, because you don't want to violate that individual so much that now they have trouble trusting anybody in their life because they're fearing being taken advantage of again. So we really hope to get the education out there to the community so we can teach them to be a little more discerning, or educate them about what is out there and the tactics that these criminals are using, so they don't have to lose that trust. Trust is a wonderful thing to have, but it's a wonderful thing to have in an appropriate situation. So if you at least have that filter of, this may not be legitimate, maybe I should dig a little deeper, it'll keep you from getting burned in most situations.
Oh, yeah. Well, now, if this is happening to an elderly individual and they need the services, but they don't have the services, can a daughter or a brother or family friend come to you and say, look, let's make this connection? Or
oftentimes, that's exactly how we hear about it. It'll be a concerned loved one that contacts us and says, here's the situation. And sometimes it's because there's issues of embarrassment involved with the individual who was defrauded or is currently being schemed. They don't want to believe that it has happened to them, or they're embarrassed that it has happened to them, and so they don't really feel comfortable talking about it. And so sometimes it will take an outside family member, friend, or neighbor who will come to us and bring this information to us, and we're able to get involved and at least stop the continuing scheme or fraud from going any further and really getting any deeper into this loved one's life.
And they can also come to you if an elderly person is being abused.
Absolutely. And if you have a loved one or a friend or a neighbor or a family member, and you identify issues that are concerning to you, and you have some fears or concerns, we would absolutely encourage you to contact the Area Agency on Aging at that toll-free 877-521-3500 number and begin the conversation, because we may be able to go out there and identify that, yes, something is taking place, and this may be a situation where Adult Protective Services might want to be brought into this picture, and we may begin to want to bring in some other assets to investigate and to stop this from continuing. Because if we can take this individual off the street, if we can get a sentence laid down and put them in jail, can you imagine how many other loved ones and family members in our communities are going to be saved from this perpetrator?
Oh, yeah.
So we have to not just think about it, well, we got it stopped for Mom. We've got to think about it at a deeper level. We've got to get this stopped for everybody out there who's being victimized by these individuals.
And it sounds like a NACOG is a nice buffer in between all this stuff? Because you call, say something's happened, somebody's being abused, and you call the police, or you call the adult protective services. They come in, and it's more, you don't have the resources, you don't have the explanation of this is what's going to happen, this is where we're going to go next. When they get a hold of you, you're able to talk them through the processes, so that it's just not bam, there it is, here's what we're doing now, let's move forward.
We've created a new anxiety for everybody.
Yeah.
Instead of really coming in and doing a little digging, talking, communicating with individuals, trying to find out if maybe there's a misunderstanding. If there is a misunderstanding, maybe we can be a liaison between the parties to help them overcome the misunderstanding. Or maybe it's an issue of exploitation and abuse, and we believe that it is as well. And now we can help escalate it to the next situation. But we'll do it in such a way that now you're a little more comfortable with the process. It's not something that's just been dropped into your lap, and now you're feeling all of this anxiety over, well, what have I started? Let's go ahead and take a look first. Maybe that smoke is fire, maybe it's not, but we'll get there together and we'll help you through the process.
And support through the entire process.
Absolutely.
Which is important.
And maybe we can come into the home and identify that there are some supports and services that you could utilize that you aren't currently taking advantage of, and we can get those into your house and help this entire process of aging in our community be a little more easier and less stressful for everyone.
How much does this end up costing a family member?
Well, the wonderful thing is almost all of these supports and services are funded through a combination of federal funding through the Older Americans Act, state funding through the Department of Economic Security, and grants and private donations. So oftentimes these services are able to be provided at no charge to the people who are taking advantage of these services. So it's really exciting, the fact that these are supports and services you can utilize, and we're not going to be coming to you in most of these situations and saying, oh yes, but there's something you need to pay. This is something you have earned in our culture, and we want to give back to you to make sure that you can stay in your home and age in place and give back to the community that you've been living in.
Brandon, that is wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the show. That was a lot of information. We're going to have you back on because we want to talk more about NACOG. So,
perfect.
Thank you very much for joining us on Safe and Sound. We'll see you next month.